Now we're moving into the muscles of the arm and forearm, the key movers of the upper limb. These are the muscles that let you flex, extend, pronate, supinate, giving you all the full range of motion to push, pull, grip, and rotate. We'll divide them into arm muscles like biceps, triceps, and brachialis, and the forearm muscle groups, which are organized into flexors and extensors. As we go, pay attention not to just the names, but also to the actions and how they work in pairs to create smooth movements. By the end, you'll have a clear map of which muscles power your everyday motions. The anterior arm muscles are all controlled by the musculocutaneous nerve. The key ones here are the Biceps Brachii and the Brachialis. Both are elbow flexors. Some books also include the Brachialis because it shares that same innervation. So remember, anterior arm, musculocutaneous nerve, and mostly flexion at the elbow. Biceps means two heads, and this muscle has two origins. The long head starts at the supraglenoid tubercle and runs through the bicipital groove. The short head starts at the coracoid process of the scapula. Both insert on the radial tuberosity. Because it crosses both the shoulder and elbow, it can act on both joints. Actions: flex the shoulder, flex the elbow, and supinate the forearm. Innervation: musculocutaneous nerve. Flex your arm and rotate your palm upward. That's the biceps brachii in action. The brachialis lies deep to the biceps. It originates just below the deltoid tuberosity on the humerus and inserts on the coronoid process and ulnar tuberosity. Its action is pure elbow flexion, especially powerful when the forearm is semi-pronated, like when you're drinking from a cup. That's why it's sometimes called the drinking muscle. Also innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve. Where the deltoid ends, the brachialis begins. The Brachioradialis is in the posterior lateral forearm, but still helps flex the elbow, making it the third elbow flexor. It originates from the lateral supracondylar ridge and inserts on the styloid process of the radius. It works best when the forearm is pronated. Its actions are elbow flexion and stabilization during flexion and extension. Since it's technically a forearm muscle, it's innervated by the radial nerve. Flex your elbow with your palm halfway between pronation and supination. That's when the brachioradialis really pops. The posterior arm muscles are controlled by the radial nerve. Their job is extension at the shoulder and elbow. The big one here is the Triceps Brachii. 3 heads, 1 powerful extensor. The triceps has 3 heads. The long head comes from the infraglenoid tubercle of the scapula. The lateral head comes from the proximal humerus on the lateral side. The medial head comes from the proximal humerus but sits deep to the other 2. All three insert on the olecranon of the ulna. Main action, extend the elbow. The long head can also extend the shoulder. Innervation, the radial nerve. Push yourself up from a chair. That's the triceps extending the elbow. The anterior forearm muscles are the common flexors of the wrist and fingers, and they also include the pronators. They all share a common origin on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. Their insertions are on the wrists and fingers. Action, flexion of the wrist and fingers. Innervation, mostly the median nerve, with some by the ulnar nerve. Anterior forearm equals flexors, equals medial epicondyle origin. The posterior forearm muscles are the common extensors of the wrist and fingers, and they include the supinator. Their origin is on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Insertions are on the posterior surfaces of carpals and phalanges. Actions, extension of the wrist and fingers. Innervation, the radial nerve. Posterior forearm equals extensors, equals lateral epicondyle origin. A quick way to remember flexor versus extensor origins is this. Flexors are medial. Extensors are lateral. Think FM radio on the EL train. F for flexors, M for medial epicondyle, E for extensors, L for lateral epicondyle. FM radio on the EL train. That little phrase locks the rule in place.